In the shadowy depths of history, where myth intertwines with reality, the alchemist's fervent quest to transmute base metals into gold set a precedent for a transformation that would reshape the world. It was not just an elusive dream of wealth, but a quest for mastery over the elements, a desire that whispered of power, of turning the mundane into the magnificent. This ancient ambition, this allure of alchemy, found its true calling not in the arcane spells of yore, but in the fiery furnaces of the Industrial Revolution. Chapter 1: The Quest for Transmutation. In the heart of this revolution stood Henry Bessemer, a figure whose ingenuity would usher in an era of unprecedented change. His Bessemer process was no less than modern alchemy. By blasting air through molten iron to remove impurities, he turned brittle pig iron into robust steel. This innovation was not merely a technical triumph, but a dramatic shift in the narrative of construction and warfare. Skyscrapers would pierce the heavens, railways would stitch continents together, and battleships would dominate the seas, all owing their spine to Bessemer's steel. Each beam, each rail, each hull was a testament to the transformation of the Earth's raw bounty into the sinews of a new world. Yet, as the smog of progress billowed from factories, another figure loomed large, a man whose name would be both revered and reviled: Alfred Nobel. His story is one of paradox, a tale of creation and destruction intertwined. Nobel's invention of dynamite was a leap forward in engineering and construction, yet it also amplified the deadly art of warfare. Here was a substance that could carve through mountains for tunnels and railways, yet also lay waste to battlefields with unprecedented ferocity. The very essence of Nobel's life's work embodied the duality of industrial advancement, the capacity to build empires and the power to obliterate them. The stage for these dramatic transformations was set in the dark, dank mines and the oppressive, smoky factories of the age. Here, the dreams of the few forged the realities of many. Men, women, and children toiled in the bowels of the earth and the bellies of the machines, extracting and shaping the resources that fueled the industrial juggernaut. Their sweat and blood were the unsung components of every ton of steel produced, every mile of track laid, every edifice that clawed its way into the skyline. Yet, as the age of steam and steel marched on, it became increasingly clear that this was no small chapter in the story of humanity. It was a fundamental rewriting of the human condition, a metamorphosis of society, economy, and environment. The very concept of time and space was being redefined, as railways shrank continents and telegraphs annihilated distance. The globe was being remolded in iron and steam, and at its forge stood the industrial alchemists, the inheritors of an ancient dream now clad in soot and steel. As the embers of the furnaces glowed in the twilight of the 19th century, they cast long shadows into the future, hinting at new transformations, new alchemies that would arise from the ashes of coal and iron. The quest for transmutation, it seemed, was an eternal human saga, its next chapter always just beyond the horizon, always promising to turn the world once more on its axis. Chapter 2: The Age of Steam and Steel. As the 19th century dawned, the world was on the cusp of a transformation so profound that the very fabric of society would be irrevocably altered. The age of steam and steel was upon humanity, and at the forefront of this seismic shift were titans of industry whose ambition and ruthlessness would become legendary. Among these were Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate whose empire would come to symbolize the era, and John D. Rockefeller, whose name would become synonymous with oil and unmatched corporate power. Andrew Carnegie, an immigrant who rose from modest beginnings, understood the potential of steel. His adoption and improvement of the Bessemer process allowed him to produce steel of a quality and quantity previously unimaginable. This steel would not only build the physical infrastructure of the modern world, but also lay the foundation for an industrial empire. Carnegie's mills, with their roaring furnaces and machinery, were monuments to human ingenuity and ambition. Yet, the very process that forged this new world was one of fire and toil, as laborers worked in conditions as harsh and unforgiving as the steel they produced. Parallel to Carnegie's rise was John D. Rockefeller, a man whose name would become a byword for both philanthropy and ruthless monopolization. Rockefeller's Standard Oil controlled a vast portion of the world's oil, a resource that was becoming increasingly crucial as industrialization progressed. His strategies of horizontal and vertical integration, where he controlled every aspect of the oil business, from drilling to distribution, were not just innovative business practices, but also aggressive tactics that would crush competition and establish a near monopoly. The era was marked by dramatic battles for market dominance. Titans of industry clashed in a relentless struggle for supremacy, using every tool at their disposal, from cutthroat business tactics to outright manipulation of laws and regulations. The public watched in awe and horror as these industrial gladiators fought for control of the new world being forged in steam and steel. Yet perhaps the most transformative aspect of this age was the railroads. These iron arteries connected distant corners of continents, shrinking the world and reshaping economies. The railroad was both a literal and metaphorical vehicle for change, transporting goods and people at unprecedented speeds, and forging links between previously isolated communities. The railroads were symbols of progress and power, and the battles to control these vital routes were as fierce as any fought in the boardrooms or the courts. The era was not just one of unbridled corporate expansion, but also of profound social change. The labor that powered the engines of industry was often brutal and dehumanizing. Strikes and labor struggles were a testament to the human cost of the Industrial Revolution, as workers sought a share in the wealth they helped create, and a voice in the factories that defined their lives. The clash between capital and labor would shape not just the lives of those directly involved, but the very nature of society and governance. As the world hurtled into the 20th century, the age of steam and steel left a legacy that was both wondrous and cautionary. The skylines of cities, the spread of railways across continents, and the rise of new economic powers were testaments to the era's achievements. Yet, the environmental degradation, the exploitation of labor, and the concentration of immense power in the hands of a few were stark reminders of the cost of progress. The age of steam and steel was a chapter in the human story that would forever change the course of history, setting the stage for further transformations that would continue to reshape the world in ways both anticipated and unforeseen. Chapter 3: The Black Gold Rush. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, a new alchemy began to take hold of the world's imagination. This time, it wasn't the transmutation of lead into gold that captivated minds, but the transformation of a thick black liquid into unparalleled wealth and power. The discovery of oil, this so-called black gold, set off a rush that was every bit as fevered and far-reaching as any gold rush that preceded it. At the center of this whirlwind were figures like Marcus Samuel of Shell and John D. Rockefeller of Standard Oil, men whose names would become synonymous with both the immense promise and the perilous excesses of this new age. Marcus Samuel, a visionary from a modest shell trading company, saw the future in oil. His pioneering spirit led to the design of the first bulk oil tanker, navigating treacherous waters to transport Russian kerosene to Asia. This innovation not only revolutionized maritime transport, but also opened the floodgates for global oil trade. Samuel's shell would soon become a symbol of the burgeoning energy era, its emblem aptly reflecting the company's origins and its global ambitions. Meanwhile, John D. Rockefeller, with his notorious Standard Oil, was carving out an American empire. Through a combination of shrewd business tactics and ruthless monopolistic practices, Rockefeller came to dominate the U.S. oil industry. His refineries were marvels of efficiency and productivity, turning crude oil into kerosene, gasoline, and other products, with unprecedented scale and profitability. However, the very strategies that cemented his fortune also made him a lightning rod for criticism, and a central figure in debates over corporate power and market control. The drama of the oil rush was not confined to the boardrooms and refineries of industrial magnates. The discovery of vast oil fields from Texas to the Middle East sent shockwaves through the global order. In places like Spindletop, Texas, gushers erupted, drawing fortune seekers from near and far and turning sleepy towns into frenzied boomtowns overnight. Across the world, in the deserts of the Middle East, vast reserves of oil were found, reserves that would eventually make the region the epicenter of global energy politics. Countries that had been mere pawns in the great game of empires suddenly found themselves holding the keys to unimaginable wealth and power. The quest for control over these resources led to alliances and conflicts that reshaped the world. The strategic importance of oil was never more apparent than in the World Wars, where control over oil fields could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Governments and corporations alike vied for influence in oil-rich regions, forging partnerships that blurred the lines between business and statecraft. The result was a complex web of relationships and a series of geopolitical maneuvers that would have long-lasting implications. As the 20th century progressed, the oil industry continued to evolve. Technological advancements opened up new possibilities for exploration and extraction. Offshore drilling, deep-sea exploration, and complex refining processes became part of the industry's ever-expanding toolkit. Yet, as the infrastructure of oil grew more sophisticated, so too did the challenges it faced, from environmental disasters to political upheavals. The story of oil is a saga of unprecedented wealth and power, of empires built and nations transformed. It is a tale of human ingenuity and insatiable ambition, of the reshaping of the world's political and economic landscapes. As the Black Gold Rush continued to unfold, it became clear that the quest for energy was not just about fueling the engines of industry. It was about fueling the very progress and conflicts of the modern age. Chapter 4: The Age of Digital Resources. As the 20th century waned, a new revolution was silently taking root, not from the clanging forges of industry, but in the quiet hum of computers and the ethereal realm of cyberspace. Information became the new global currency, and the architects of this digital world would become the new magnates, the new visionaries shaping the contours of the future. Among these were Steve Jobs of Apple and Bill Gates of Microsoft, whose rivalry and innovations laid the cornerstone for an era defined by personal computing and software. Steve Jobs, with his keen eye for design and intuitive sense of what consumers desired, turned personal computers into objects of desire. The Apple Macintosh was not just a machine. It was a portal to a new way of interacting with information, a tool that would democratize the digital world. Jobs' flair for the dramatic and his uncompromising vision would make Apple a symbol of innovation and rebellion against the staid norms of the technology industry. In contrast, Bill Gates' Microsoft became synonymous with the software that powered the majority of the world's personal computers. Gates understood the importance of an operating system that could run on any hardware, and his Windows software became the de facto standard, dominating the market and turning Microsoft into a powerhouse of the industry. The battles between Apple and Microsoft, between Jobs and Gates, were not just corporate rivalries. They were ideological clashes that would define the future of technology. As personal computing took the world by storm, a new frontier was opening up: the internet. The Silicon Valley boom was fueled by a gold rush mentality, as startups mushroomed overnight, each promising to be the next big thing. The dot-com bubble swelled, filled with dreams and speculation, and when it burst, it left in its wake a landscape changed forever. Yet, from the ashes of this burst bubble, rose companies that would become more influential than any oil or steel magnate of the past. Google, with its mission to organize the world's information, and Facebook, connecting people across the globe, became the new titans, their platforms becoming integral to the daily lives of billions. The rise of these digital empires underscored a fundamental shift. Data had become the most valuable resource. In the digital age, information was power, and those who could harness, analyze, and leverage data held the keys to influence and wealth. But this new resource was intangible, its extraction and use fraught with ethical dilemmas and privacy concerns. The very tools that connected people and democratized information also enabled surveillance and manipulation on an unprecedented scale. The lines between the real and the virtual blurred, as did the boundaries between public and private, creating a world more connected yet more divided than ever. As the digital age unfolded, It raised profound questions about the nature of progress, the rights of individuals, and the shape of the future. Yet, as this new world continues to evolve, it becomes clear that the digital revolution is far from over. The quest to understand and harness the forces that shape our world continues. In this relentless pursuit, the spirit of the alchemists lives on, not in the transmutation of lead into gold, but in the ongoing quest to transform information into a new kind of empire.